Hi, I'm Reggie Ponder, the Real Critic, and this is the Real Critic Roundtable, where African American critics come to discuss, debate, and have some fun. I got my people here today, as usual. I got KB in the house through the lens of Lady KB, and she all over the place. She got some other stuff going. She got podcasts. She made some news all over like the internet talking about she's doing some podcasts and something. So KB, what's going on, girl?
Hey, thanks for having me. Yes, I am one of 8 people in iHeartMedia's new program called Next Up, and it is for podcasters. And so we have the opportunity over the next 5 months to create a project that we pitched. No, I cannot share that pitch yet. Everybody keeps asking me, but I can't. But we do have the opportunity to create some episodes for a project that we each pitched, and fingers crossed it goes well, and I can maybe hopefully become a permanent family of iHeart. So we'll see what happens. But I'm super excited about it. It started this week. And it has been going really well, and the rest of my fellows in the cohort are exceptional people as well. So shout out to them, and shout out to Joelle Monique, who works for iHeart as producer. She really pushed me to pitch this concept idea that I had just kind of shared with her, just one-on-one as friends, and she really thought it was a great idea and pushed me to pitch it. So yeah, here we are.
That's so exciting! Congratulations.
Thank you.
For sure. And of course, I got my friend Katia Woods in the house, couplesouls.com, Philadelphia Tribune. I could probably just start listing all these other things, but then we wouldn't have the show. So, Katia, what's going on? What you got working, girl?
A lot. And like KB, I was really lucky to get into a program. It's a pilot program. I don't know who all the people are, but I applied. Sometimes you just got to be like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Somebody will say yes. And I'm in the inaugural NABJ Entrepreneurship Academy. So we're going to be taking classes and things like that to help my business and just overall. And I'm really excited because it's always nervous when you have to tell people about your business. Like, why you started your business. Why you love your business, but that don't mean they got to love your business. So the email came super late. You know how your phone blows up? You're like, "Ooh, it's 2:00. What is happening?" Right? And I saw it, and I sat up in bed, and I was like, "Oh, it's 2 a.m. Girl, sit down." And so it's a very nice thing, and they'll announce everybody during convention, which convention is coming up. But yes, it was yay silent.
Well, firstly, I am always so happy for both of you guys. As you know, the only thing I'm upset about is the Ted Lasso stuff. But other than that,
I'm thrilled that KB does get to do those interviews because it's important, because we like more things than just Black things. And I agree with your tweet. That holiday Christmas episode is everything.
Just stop it, because I haven't seen it. Stop it. I haven't seen it yet, so just stop it. And this is all I want to say about that, is that I would like to, if she gets the interviews, I would like for her to do it on green screen so I could replace myself in her.
No, we're not doing that. No. We're not doing that.
She looks a little frozen there, so I'm gonna try to keep it moving. All right, so let's get to it. We got 3 movies to talk about today, and we're gonna start off today with a movie called Free Guy. Yeah, Free Guy. KB, bring it in for us.
All right, so Free Guy is based inside of a video game. So what a unique concept already to begin with. It's based inside this video game called Free City. And Ryan Reynolds stars in this film alongside Laurel Howery and a whole host of other people and cameos that I won't spoil. But basically, in this particular game, you have a lot of these kind of non-playable characters. And Ryan Reynolds and Laurel are 2 of the non-playable characters. In the real world, you have Jodie Comer, who plays Millie, and she and her partner in in coding crime, I should call him, Keys, who's played by Joe Keery, they created kind of this AI system within the game. So really, it is a fusion of the real world plus this video game. It is really, really funny. It started off super slow for me, though. I'm not going to lie. Like the first 20 minutes, I was like, okay, come on, let's get to it. But then when it picks up, it really picks up. And I will say Ryan and Laurel as a comedic duo were really good to me. I thought they were really funny as best friends in this. Ryan, pretty much is always the same for me in every movie, in the sense that like his comedy is always the same. Like, what you're going to get. I feel like he does 90% of the stuff that he does is probably ad libs, because that's just kind of like the kind of humor that he has. So this actually made perfect sense. But I think Jodie as Millie and her being kind of like inside the game and outside the real world and having this conundrum of things happening, I thought she did a good job. But, it ended up surprising me in a lot of ways, because I had no expectations going in, but I knew I wanted to see it, but I had no expectations of whether or not I would like it. And I ended up really, really liking it. Like, okay, y'all, look at y'all in here in this video game. Now, I just think that they really, though, with the Disney and Marvel, magic hints that come throughout, I think they really were like, listen, if we're gonna be with Disney, we're gonna be with Disney. And so we're gonna, be able to pull out all the stops. And I was like, okay. And then shout out to a little bit of romance too, just a hint of it. Not a ton, but a hint.
So it's really interesting. I feel so similar to you in terms of, did I really want to see this? I'm like, Free Guy, is this a movie that I want to check out? I was pleasantly surprised. I went, and the other critics thought I was a little bit crazy because I was laughing. They were like, I'm laughing and I'm clapping, and I'm like, that's funny. I think they did a couple of things that I liked about this. The first thing is that they didn't take this too seriously. And I think when you first start like that, that makes a lot of sense. It is a video game, so let's not take it too seriously. But it also shed a light, and you talked about this, on this whole issue of non-playable characters, because a lot of us in real life believe we are non-playable characters or just cogs in the wheel. And so it says it's a message to us that we're not. And then it reminds me of this whole issue of machines taking over and killing humanity. But in this one, it really was machines saying that they're going to preserve humanity. And I really liked that. I thought Ryan Reynolds was funny. Jodie Comer was, just solid throughout, in the game, outside of the game. There was only one thing that got me about this film, and that was the boss. I felt that when they made him so over the top with the hip hop stuff that it bordered on being a little bit disrespectful to the culture for me. Just, hey, what's up? He was just so over the top on that. So it just bothered me a little bit. I'm not saying that this is a movie that you need to run out and go see, but what I am saying, if you go see this movie, you will enjoy yourself and you will leave like, it is mindless fun, but it does have a message in it. Your thoughts, Katya?
I really like this film. Like a lot, like both of you, I didn't know what to expect. Because what the poster looks like and what the preview looks like and what happens are two different things. And I think that's a good thing. Because too often we see the preview, go, oh, it's going to be okay. I see what we're going to do here. But I laughed. Shout out to Khaki Pants, And I was so thrilled for Little Rel Howery, because he is a major part of this film. He's not just a token Black friend. Do you know what I mean? And I love how he leaned into it, because they're both like goofy, dorky, but in a nice way. The other thing is, the directors and the writers understood the assignment. They had dual action, meaning that there was action going on in the cyber world and in the real world. They also understood video game culture. And I love how they pulled in real YouTubers and Twitch stars, and they got it. And they got in on making fun of themselves and how they're perceived and all of that stuff. So all of that enhances the reality of the film. Tiger didn't bother me so much because I understood what they were trying to say. He's the evil guy. He's the guy that doesn't care about quality, talent. He just cares about getting more money. So they had to make him as unlikable as possible so that we really are rooting for Millie, who is about the integrity and all of that, and the camaraderie of the cyber world. But I really like this. I would recommend for people to see it if you are comfortable going to a theater. I do think if you don't want to see this other stuff that's out there, this is a cute, and like KB said, just a sprinkle of the romance, and Ryan Reynolds was extremely delightful in this.
KB?
Yeah, I'm going to say, it is a watch it for me. A pleasantly surprising watch it, just because I didn't know what to expect. But then I was like, ooh, okay, this is fun. It is very, very fun. To Reggie's point, no one takes themselves seriously, not even the characters, to be quite honest. And so that's what I love. There is also another message, though, about capitalism and greed when it comes to the boss. And so, Taika Waititi is always he's so interesting to me, like as a human being, because of the different projects that he's picked and the different projects that he's directed, but also that he stars in, but also that he's written. So this for me was like kind of a new phase of Taika to be able to see on screen, if that makes sense, in his career. So, but yeah, he is wildly over the top, but he represents, kind of those big bosses who don't care about stepping on the little people to get what they want out of life. And what I like about this film is that, if you do good things and you work hard, sometimes it works out for you. And I feel like that's what the message is inside the game and outside the game too. So yeah, definitely a watch it for me. And yeah, Ryan Reynolds, you're right. Ryan Reynolds, Laurel, I feel like everybody was delightful, to be quite honest. Like I feel like they assembled a really good cast who worked well together.
This was a surpriser for me. I enjoyed myself. I left it. And the reason I'm not saying like you got this like the must-see movie, is that I enjoyed myself. And if I had to, if somebody said, hey, go watch it with me, I'd watch it with them again. But this is not a movie that I would just be like, okay, I gotta watch again. So that's just a little bit difference for me. Nothing against it. I enjoyed myself all the way through. And I think I embarrassed myself too, because like I said, I was clapping, I was doing like this, and people were turning around like,
whatever.
Could you stop?
You had a good time.
That's
all that matters.
I did. So this is a watch it for me. Katya, last word.
Absolutely.
All right, excellent. So we're going to move into our next movie, which is Coda. I tell you guys every week that Katya, like, she be blowing me up. Reggie, you got to watch this movie. Reggie, not always, whatever. Anyway, she's like, you got to watch this movie. You got to watch this movie. And Coda was on the list. And I'm like, Coda, huh? I'm not really familiar with that one. And I got it and I watched it. So what is Coda about? It's really about a 17-year-old girl named Ruby, who her parents and her brother are all deaf. And her position in the family is basically the family interpreter. She interprets obviously from people who can speak to the family, and from the family to people who can speak. And so she is just consumed with having to play that role in life. However, she's kind of an outsider in her family because she's the only one who can speak. And she's the outsider in society because she has a deaf family, which is a little bit insular. And so what the story really is about her trying to find her way and trying to find her voice. And when we say voice, it's not even a pun, because she can sing and she likes music, and she's learning that music is really important to her, but that might jeopardize the relationship that she has with her family. Her family, they're fishermen, and they really need her to help them on the waters to fish and with the business and talking to different people and things of that sort. I like this, Katya. Oh,
how can you not?
There were moments, I can't even lie to you. I was just sitting there and tears was just like running down my eye. What I liked about this is that, first, I like the music. I like the music that they chose in this. You get a little Tammy Terrell. I'm like, come on, y'all. You get some Marvin Gaye. I'm like, I like that. I also liked her struggle to find her place and to find her voice. Is that they made her, when you see her in the beginning, from going to work to do the help with the fishermen in the morning, and then go to school and then try to do some singing stuff. You feel for this. You're rooting for her from the get-go. And I think that the writers were really smart because they developed all the characters. The father had his own personality. The mother had her own personality. The mother and father were kind of wild. But it was like these people were people, not these people were deaf people. So they had lives, they had concerns, they had feelings. I like this. I liked her journey as to trying to figure out what was she going to do. And I think that the biggest thing is that this is more than a girl trying to find her way, but it's really about a family trying to come to grips in order for her to find her way, and understanding that they probably need to get out of the way for her to do so. So it's a beautiful story. I like this a lot. Katya.
I love this film. I saw it at Sundance, and I was like, oh, it would have been nice if we all would have been together. But, we'll be together soon again. There's so many great things about this. And what I love is exactly what you said. We're seeing people that happen to be deaf, and we are forced to be in their world, as it should be. I love how we have quiet moments, because as hearing people, we don't know what they go through. We can empathize, but we don't. The scene when they are in the auditorium and them trying to connect and showing the struggle, but they're still there because it's important for their daughter. I also understand that the daughter story is a universal story. It's not just, I don't think you have to be deaf to understand that you want to get away from your clingy family, that you want to go and be in a space where you get to be yourself. You're not an attachment to all these other people. Her trying to explain to her family that she loves them, but she wants her own life. I think that's something we all can relate to. Do you know what I mean? I am so thrilled that Marlee Matlin is in this film. I also love how it forces you again. They when they have sign language, is sign language, right? And again, we are the outsiders to that very intimate family. And everybody has, like you said, has context and has purpose. There's not just, okay, we're going to throw this in. And I also loved, I'm a huge fan of Eugenio Derbez, who is, a Latin actor. And this is what we're talking about, where you just get to play a role and you happen to be Latin. And he's more or less the guy that helps her see herself. And again, the parent, and the other part I think is also important is too often when we see disabled people, we see them as living very vanilla lives. Like they don't curse, they don't have sex, they don't have fun, they don't get to have a wild period, because we have this idea that disabled people live this sanitized life. The woman in Crib Camp said it best. Like when she went to the doctor and the doctor was surprised that she had an STD, and like, you're having sex? And she's like, yes, disabled people have sex. You know what I mean? And she went on to say I was so offended that it spurred me into a career to be an sexual expert, doctor of sex, because I wanted to be a catalyst in a safe space for disabled people. And I think that's important because we don't get to see disabled people as sexual, loving people. And the other thing too, these parents loved each other. They were crazy about each other. And that's also a positive.
KB?
Yeah, so I saw this film at Sundance as well, and it still remains my top film of the year. I just have not seen anything like this story before. It was endearing. It was heartbreaking. It was exciting. It was all of the things. It was human. It was just about the human experience and how growing up can be challenging, and how growing up with disabled parents is challenging, how growing up with parents, if they're disabled or not, is challenging. How just trying to find your own voice and your own footing within your family, within your school, within your life. And kind of letting go of your parents' expectations for you. I think that was the hardest part for Ruby, was really coming to terms with the fact that, like, I don't want to stay here and run this fishing business. And that's fine if that's what my parents want to do. But the parents also letting go of this dream that they have for her, and her life when it doesn't align with what she wants to do and the choices that she wants to make and even the mistakes that she's going to make inevitably. So I think my favorite scene is the one in the auditorium. You, as a hearing person, you often take for granted kind of what that means in your own life. And being able to take a step back through that lens and just have a moment where you're starting to, and I completely understand that that scene doesn't even completely scratch the surface of what it must be like as a person with a hearing disability or someone who is deaf. But it was beautiful to be able to see everything through their lens, and for them to be able to connect. And so that scene, coupled with how she connects with her father right after one-on-one, where he asked her to sing for him, I loved it. Like it is so beautiful. And honestly, if you're not crying, then something is wrong, because it was so beautiful. Like, I'm like, how do you not have any emotion for this? How are you not weeping with this? It's just such a great story. And I really hope that people watch it. And I'm kind of thrilled. I do feel like Apple TV unfortunately started literally with the pandemic. I mean, that's truly kind of what happened. They didn't really have like a good footing, so to speak. And so I'm excited about the new content that they have kind of coming out, and maybe hopefully it will propel them. But I think buying Coda at Sundance was the best thing that they could have done for their particular streaming service, because it was my top film of the Sundance Festival. And that was hard to do because there were some really, really great films at Sundance this year, particularly in the documentary space. But I just, when it comes to scripted, this was definitely my top one because it was just so fantastic. And I loved everything about it. So
there are a couple of things that I want to piggyback on. Firstly, that we get an Academy Award winner like Marley Matt, and she gets a real role. She gets a real role, you guys. She doesn't have to try to speak. She didn't have to. What they do not do in this film is make the deaf people try to speak. Try to say something, which she can do. But they stay so true to the fact that we're in a deaf world, and I really, really like that. It was great to see her. And this is a little bit different for me than they do a good job with sound here, but a little bit different than from Sound of Metal. Sound of Metal was like a master class in sound to me. This was not to be technical. This was really to be personal. And I think they accomplished that with Sound and Metal too, but I think it was like just a technical masterpiece of what they did with sound. But here, I think they used it so well in that scene that we're all talking about, where they go to one of her concerts and they can't hear a thing. All they're doing is looking around and saying, "Okay, people are clapping now. That must mean I need to clap." They just do a really good job here. And for you, KB, you talk about from Free Guy, and you said there's a little bit of romance. I'm surprised you didn't say, and there's a little bit of romance. So I'll say it for you. Katya, last word here.
I think the other thing it made you aware of, that the hearing people were not at all trying to see what they could do to make this experience more palatable. And it does make me think, what are we doing to include them more in the community? Because it's our job.
I love that.
It really is.
Yes.
We're the dominant people, so we have to be like, wait a minute. Couple of us, this is not translating. And why we can't make them hear, we can ask them, what can we do? Do you need to sit closer? Do you want headphones? They can hear vibrations. Do you know what I mean? And there's certain things that can be done. So I did think about that. I was like, wow, these people, it's a small town. Everybody knows each other. Didn't nobody ask them, hey, what can we do to make it better for you? And I think that's a nice way of kind of like saying, shame on you. Because they're, like Reggie said, they're sitting there and people are looking at them and they're like, oh, because it's a common thing. Everybody talked about how they couldn't hear, like they're the family that can't hear. So I really was like, okay, that's smart. She's
So
kind of like on you without saying it out loud.
No, I will say, no, there are moments where she shows how nasty the hearing people really are to them.
Yep.
And it does make you check your own privilege, and not saying that you've been, nasty to anyone in the deaf community, but you still haven't been accommodating. So
That's
it's
right.
both. It's both. Because I definitely she definitely shows the ones that are nasty. And you're like, how can you treat another human being like this? Like, I don't understand. But also to your point. Yeah. So, I mean, I honestly walked away like, okay, I need to do a better job of one, learning sign language, and two, just being more aware.
I love that. I love that, KB. And it always made me think why we don't learn sign language in school. I mean, why that's just not in elementary school. We just learn it. Everybody knows it. Not some little cursory thing. Because I think we had like a day or so of learning a couple of signs.
Thank you, kind of stuff, right?
But I think I would like, so this one for me is a must watch it. A must, not a kind of it. This is so good, and I would gather the whole family around. And don't get turned off on this discussion about deaf people, because this is a universal story. It is a universal story. This is a must watch. Katya.
Oh, absolutely. And bring tissue.
Yeah, KB.
100% must watch.
Excellent. So now we get to our last movie of the week, and that movie is Respect. Katya, bring it in.
Okay, Respect is about, obviously, Aretha Franklin. It covers her life from a young girl to the Amazing Grace period. The title character is played by Jennifer Hudson. Marlon Wayans plays her first husband, Ted White. Forrest Whitaker plays C.L. Franklin. And Audra McDonald plays her mother, Barbara. All right. So it's hard. I'm going to say this to preface it before I say the rest of it. Aretha Franklin was a once-in-a-lifetime artist. There will never be another like her. She has a very unique singing voice, style, demeanor. She's born in Memphis, but raised in Detroit. But so she's a Detroit girl. A couple of things. I think smart was for Jennifer not to try to sound like Aretha, because you can't. No matter how many singing lessons you take, it's going to come across as karaoke. My disappointment with this is, and I'm a huge Aretha Franklin fan. I know a lot of stuff about her. It's like a little borderline nutty. But if we're going to discuss, and I have this issue with all biopics, if we're going to discuss a person's life, and I understand that you want to make sure that it's handled with integrity, that it doesn't turn into a TMZ type of thing, a telenovela. But if we're going to commit to tell the story, we got to start telling the truth. And part of this is our church folk secrecy type of thing, because they were church people, and we don't like to expose mess from our church people. But part of it is also, it's disservice to her as a person, because it would help, especially people that are not familiar with her story, if we told all of it. If you're going to talk about her abuse in her marriage, you got to talk about what happened to her as a child. There are people out there that were like asking me and were confused. How did she had a baby? Like, who's the father? What is this? We don't necessarily need to get into who the father is, but we do need to acknowledge that this young woman, by the age of 15, was a mother of two. And some of the things that went into why she was a mother, and not kind of like give you the, you know what I mean? Like the little, 1, 2, 3. Oh, then she was a mom, and then now she's an adult, because it had a profound effect on her. Also, it also is partly if you look at the relationship with her father, it's some of his responsibility because CL had a baby with someone when he was 25 and the young girl was 12. So there's a very destructive culture and negative thing going on in that household that's being sanitized. And I think that's disrespectful because in order to understand where a person is going, you got to understand where they started from. The other thing is, let's get into the acting. I felt for all this talk and all the trashing that people did about nobody wanted Cynthia to play Aretha, and there was a lot of bashing on her. Oh, now we can't wait. We're going to get the real story. They totally under-delivered. They had an opportunity to say something and to do something here, and they failed the assignment. I felt Jennifer was playing it way too safe. She didn't open up. But I will say this because I don't want to be a basher. And I just wish also we would have done a better job of Muscle Shelf. There's a wonderful documentary that talks about how Muscle Shelf, Alabama was responsible for a lot of great soul music. These little white guys in segregated South were really into soul music, which is an oxymoron in itself, and could have really been a fun thing to explain that here we are with all these racial tensions, but these white guys want to make a soul album with the soul singer of all time. Like, that is a conversation in itself. But I did like Marlon Wayans, and I did like, Forrest. I think Marlon is beyond gifted. And I don't necessarily like him when he comes up with his own stuff because it tends to be a little cheesy for me. But I think this man is almost 50 years old, and Hollywood is finally getting it, that he has the capability to do more than just be the key guy. And kudos to him. And I also think that, Forrest is Forrest Whitaker, and he's always going to come and show. And there, there's a scene with him and Ted, and, Forrest went all the way gangster, and we're like, oh, what's happening? But I did enjoy that part. I just was disappointed because what we were sold and told was not what was on that screen.
KB?
Yeah, so I was able to take my family with me to the screening because, my mother is from that Muscle Shoals kind of area. So I know a lot about that, the history of the music, the soul music that came from that area, but the racial tensions being high, there were story for days. And she's a huge Aretha Franklin fan. And so is my sister. So, they were able to go. They loved the movie. I was looking at it from a bit more of a critical lens. So I felt like I didn't necessarily walk away and have a greater understanding of Aretha as a woman by watching it. I will say, when Aretha was alive, and actually Glenn Turman just said this in an interview the other day, because, Glenn is her second husband and he is not featured at all in this film. But he said that, he had spoken to her about this before she died, and she had always selected Jennifer to be the person that she wanted to represent her in a biopic. Which is great, because I do think Jennifer has a powerhouse of a voice, and I do think that makes sense. Like, she understood that she would have kind of that vocal range, and it wouldn't necessarily be the same, but that she would be, kind of up there. And I think what you see is something extraordinary with Jennifer singing these songs, because she is singing these songs. So that is not to be missed at all. I definitely think she does a fabulous job singing these songs and in those parts. I'm not going to say that it is the acting that bothered me so much as the writing, because I just don't think that the story really gave me, like I said before, I think anything new. And that's what I was kind of hoping for. Marlon, as a dramatic actor, is really, really good. And I wish more people saw that. I wish more people would, kind of sign him up for that. And I know that that's what he is rooting for and championing for right now as well, because he does an extraordinary job as Ted White. And I think Forrest Whitaker does a really great job as C.L. Franklin. And I do think something that they did do in this film is that they didn't beat around the bush with CL's shortcomings. I think it's very clear that he is abusive, and abuse comes in many forms, and not just physical, but he is clearly also physically abusive, but he's also emotionally abusive. He's manipulative. Like, I think that they kind of wove in the layers of who he was as a man and the complicated relationship that she had with her father, which also showed kind of why her mother left, because she felt like she was trapped. And so I love Audrey McDonald, love. And I'm a huge fan. Anybody who knows me knows my one of my top 3 favorite shows of all time is Good Wife. And The Good Fight is right up there. I just meld them together because it's the same universe. And she's doing extraordinary things on that show. And she also has an exceptional voice and has had a wonderful Broadway career. And I just don't think we got enough time with her. And I understand why. Like, I think that, like, you know, her mother's death was really supposed to be the catalyst for a lot of things that happened in the story later on. But man, I just wanted more time. I really wanted more time with her. But you know, I think Jennifer did what she had to do in that period of time with the script that she was given. I just wanted the script to be more. Like, I needed more. And to Katya's point, you know, if you're going to tell the truth, tell the whole truth. You know, we don't need kind of little small pockets of the truth or like visuals of the truth with no explanation behind it. You know, it would have been great to dive into some deeper layers. And you know, I do kind of feel like they were like, oh, she was struggling with sobriety a lot in the film. You know, she was an alcoholic, and they showed that. But I think that it would have just been, we understood that she had trauma, but we didn't understand the depth of the trauma. And, you know, having a child at 12 and then by 15 having another one and understanding what, like, there's so many layers in trauma. And clearly she shared some things with her grandmother. It was alluded to the fact that she ended up sharing it with her. But again, we didn't really talk about it. I just think, you know, it would have been a more compelling story to have her deal with that trauma and face it, because, you know, it almost is like we see all of this trauma and how it takes a toll on her and her singing career. And then all of a sudden one day she wakes up and it's just gone. I was like, yeah. I felt like there was, you know, something missing there that we could have added into the story in that way. But
so Katya has been on social media like, nah, this ain't working. Ain't working for me. And I understand it. I really do. So I like a little bit of what you're saying, Katya, but I meld it with some of what KB has just said, is that to me, it starts with the writing. We always talk about this. The acting in this, to me, is solid throughout. And it would be a crime for us not to mention Sky Dakota Turner. As the young Aretha Franklin, this young lady crushes it. She commands the screen. I'm talking about when she's talking, when she's sitting with Forrest, when she's singing. She acts in this, and I think there's not a person on this who doesn't do a good job from an acting perspective. So from an acting perspective, I'm like, everybody did their job. When you talk about Marlon Wayans, wow. When you talk about Forrest Whitaker, wow, he ate it up. I just think, and then the scenes with him and Jennifer together, those scenes were powerful. I didn't have a problem with anything on the acting side. I had a problem with the fact that what they did in this film is that they told Aretha's story and didn't take for granted that people knew some stuff, but then they took for granted that people didn't know some stuff. So you tell us what we kind of know, but then you know that we want to know something else, and you don't tell us that. And that was really the failing for me with the film. But I liked a number of things in it. I liked the singing as Titus Burgess. I liked him as well, by the way. I like the singing, just like you said, KB. I like the acting in it. I thought Marlon Wayans was fantastic. And then we don't necessarily get an Aretha Franklin concert, but I like the fact that they tell us these things about her and her sister, her and her mom, her and her father. I think they did enough there to make me say, yeah, I liked it. I walked away liking it. Did I love it? No, but I walked away liking this one more than I think more than you, Katya, and that might be because they obviously as a shero, they seemingly let you down on this.
I don't know. I did not feel, and I think and I said this in my review, I honestly believe an artist of her caliber is better served via a 5-10 part documentary. I don't like this choice of them stopping at Amazing Grace, because in the 70s, she took control of her career. She took control of her image. And we got in Aretha, and this is the part that I'm really, really mad about, that she was unapologetically Black. And not to say we know that, but you don't get the sense of what's going on the screen. And there are certain things, I'm like, that whole scene with her and Dinah Wash, with her, that could have been cut out. And we could have then brought in important things that centered around her. We got enough in there to understand that when she was at Columbia, they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do with her. We got it. We didn't need all of that. Don't get me wrong. I definitely told my piece of it that the writer blares a good brunt of this mess. But again, if you're going to say that you were asked to do this, and also how are you going to get a director that's never directed any film to direct a story about Aretha Franklin? That part too is beyond puzzling. I was like, if I'm talking about her, my review's going to turn into 3,000 words. But it's just, like I said, here's the two questions I asked, and then you guys can have final words. Did we learn anything new? No. Did you walk away feeling as though you have an understanding why she was the icon that she was? And the answer is no. And to me, that's a failure of a biopic, because you're supposed to learn something new about the artist. You're supposed to be inspired in some capacity why she was. I'm thinking like my daughter's generation. Are they looking at it and getting a sense of understanding why this woman had a 7-decade career? And those questions were not answered by that pick. So therefore, to me, that's a failure. We get it with Elton John's pick, because Elton was willing to take the Band-Aid off and say, I'm going to tell you the good, the bad, the ugly, the real ugly parts of my life, so you can understand why, songs like I'm Still Standing, all those songs came out of that. And you then walk away and you go, oh yeah, this is why Elton John is Elton John. I did not feel that way with Aretha Franklin. And I do have to say, I am disappointed in Jennifer, because I expected the singing, I knew was going to be there. But again, and also last part I'm going to say, Aretha Franklin was incredibly funny. There's no wit. Have you seen Aretha Franklin's interviews? The shade, the side eye, the little, jabs in there. This woman was void of any fun, any humor, any quirk in this entire film. So therefore, I'm like, that's on you, Jennifer, because you spent time with Aretha, you interacted, you got her mannerism, and we didn't get one key out of there.
Now, one thing I will say, Kathy, to double back on that is it potentially because they were showing the story before she fully came into who she was? You know what I mean? I think because they were trying to show how much Ted controlled her, how much she was losing a lot of herself in that relationship. Do you think that's why we didn't get kind of the humor and the wit that you would hope for, kind of in once she left him and once she's coming out of that cycle of dependency with alcohol, and once she's coming out of that, do you think that it's because they were really focused on those portions of her story and not really, we didn't get to the point of her being a unapologetic butterfly? I don't even know any other way to say it. You know what I mean? We didn't get to see her really fully out of her shell or out of the cocoon and, out of the addiction and out of, so maybe that's why.
I do. I do. I want to take that actually. I do. I think that the trajectory they took, I don't think this is Jennifer's fault. I would disagree with you like 100.
I do.
But let me, I know you already said it, so I'm gonna tell you why I disagree. I don't think that this is Jennifer's fault. I think this is Aretha's fault. Aretha, they knew what the story they wanted to tell. They did not want to tell the stuff that we want to know. That has nothing to do with Jennifer Hudson. Is that the reason she picked Jennifer Hudson is because they had a trajectory for this story. I would bet my bottom dollar that Aretha was like, okay, we're gonna talk about this, we're gonna talk about this, and you guys are not gonna talk about this. You just said it with Elton John. Elton was like, whatever, let's put it out there. Jennifer played the role that she had. She probably tried to play as respectful to what the Queen asked her to do, and I think she delivered in that. So yes, I believe that was a trajectory, and I believe that the people who were responsible for this had a trajectory, and that's what we saw on it. So to me, this is a watch it. I think people should check it out. I do want to mention one other thing, and I'll get back to you, Katya. And you asked about you talk about this issue of a 5-part docuseries or whatever. That's cool. But the mark of a good biopic is that you cannot try to cram everything in a biopic. And once you do that, it becomes just hodgepodge. The answer to your question for me, did I learn something new about Aretha Franklin? I did, because I didn't know all the stuff that you knew about Aretha Franklin. The answer for the people that I know who went to see it, they learned something new. But was it the qualm I have about it is that they were hiding stuff, that they were hiding information. They decided not to show some particular things, and you guys highlighted those things, and I think that's what was problematic. With this is a watch it for me. I'll go to you, Katya, and then we'll end up with KB on it. Katya.
I mean, I will push back and say Jennifer bears some responsibility because she was a producer of that project. And as a producer, you do bear responsibility. If she was just the actress, then I would give you that. But if you look at the closing credits, it just, under producer, it has her name on it. So that means she has input on script, she has input on director, she has input on a lot of things. And she chose not to make that, and her not pushing back and saying, hey, we need to interject some humor here. This is way too dry. She was this, that, and a third. And that, for me, that's why I say she bears some responsibility. And again, I get you can't put 7 decades into a 2-hour film, but you could have put in the part where she started standing on her own 2 feet and taking out the nonsense with her and Mary J. Blige. We didn't need to know that. That didn't help the project any better. We also could have spent a little bit more time fleshing out those silent scenes. And don't even get me started how the Reverend Cleveland was just put in there like a sidekick, because he also deserved a little bit more respect. But for me, I feel like you're better off watching some YouTube videos and listening to some interviews and so forth to get a better understanding who she was. Granted, are you going to get her talking about some of that trauma?
Is this a watch it? Is it a watch it or not?
It is not for me.
Okay. KB.
So for me, it's going to be a mild watch it, only because I do think that we need to support this project. Like it's going to be one of those things where I'm like, if we want more projects, this is what we're always talking about. We want more projects. We want more diversity. Then we have to show up for it. I do think that I say it's mild because it's definitely not without criticism. For me, the script is where it lacks, but the music, the performances, I also think are stunning. I think that if you don't know anything about Aretha, then you will learn something. So this for me is kind of like what I envision to be an introductory biography, if that makes sense. Like if you don't know nothing about her, then you will learn some things about her through this. If you are a super fan like Katya, then you won't learn anything. But I do think it's important that we still support it if we want to see more content like this. And I do think that Forrest's performance, Audrey's performance, Forrest and Marlon's performance as well, and Jennifer singing alone, I do think for me, at times that accent that was coming in and out, I was like, no, wait, hold on now, Jennifer, now where are we going with this accent? So I did have to ask myself that. But before I end, I do want to shout out my homegirl from college is in it. And her name is Brenda Nicole Moore, and she is in this film, and she does a great job singing. And she is one of the 3 background singers. 2 of them are her sisters. She is actually the 3rd singer that tours with Aretha in the film. So
who's the 3rd one? Sissy Houston, and we never talk about that either.
All right, so we're running up on time, and before we leave, would like to do our spotlight section, just to see if there's something that you guys would like to spotlight. I'll start with you, KB, because I know you got to get up out of here. What you got for the spotlight?
Yeah, so I'm going to do 2 things real quick. So one, the Ted Lasso episode. So, I'm going to go ahead and bully Reggie into watching it. And don't wait to binge, watch it. The one that's out today is an absolute delight. It might be my favorite one of the series thus far. I'm not going to lie. It's all the emotions into one, and I just love it. And anyone who knows me knows my favorite holiday is Christmas. I watch Christmas movies all year round. It is on brand for me. The Hallmark Channel stays on deck for me. I'm delighted at all times. So yes, please watch it. It's great. Also, something that I checked out this week. is Heels on Stars. It's a new wrestling family drama. It comes out on Sunday, on the 15th. I still don't know. Y'all know how I feel about pilots generally. I don't like them. Like, for the most part, I can count on one hand how many pilots I actually like. So I'm intrigued, though. Stephen Amell, who spent most of his career playing Oliver Queen on the CW's Green Arrow, about the Green Arrow show, is taking it a turn. He's a huge wrestling fan in real life, so this is kind of on brand for him personally. And he is the star and lead of this family drama. It's messy, y'all. It's white, messy drama. And y'all know how much I also adore white, messy drama in addition to holiday films. So that's why I was checking it out. I'm gonna keep giving it some more episodes, but it does premiere on Sunday, and I'm intrigued enough to watch the next episode. And they do, I will say, it's a white, messy drama. Yes, there are some characters of color sprinkled in throughout it, but if you don't like wrestling, I don't know if you would like it, because it's definitely wrestling heavy, but it's also heavy on the family drama. So.
All right, Katya, spotlight.
All right, since we're speaking of Aretha Franklin, if we're going to watch something where you get a good essence of who she is as an artist and watch Amazing Grace, it's probably streaming on one of the streaming outlets, and you get to get a better understanding. Then what's the other thing I saw that like KB, I've been watching a lot of TV. And I'm intrigued by The Chair. It's not out yet, but look for it. It's coming with Sandra Oh, and I think it's nice. I always like to see, when a certain actress wins, a certain type of actress wins an award, you're like, ooh, is that going to be it? Is she not going to get another good job? Well, our sis got another good job. So
yeah.
So
right.
I will say I'll second that, and it comes out next Friday. So
I haven't seen that one. I haven't seen that one, so I have to check it out.
You request it, Reggie, and maybe we can have a little chat about it. I would say request it.
All right. Well, you guys, I'm gonna take that as a yes, and I will absolutely request it. So I'll end the show with my spotlight, and my spotlight is something that I was not trying to watch. I watched the first season of it, but I go upstairs and my daughter is watching it, and she's binging it, and it is All American. And I liked the first season, and I watched like 4 episodes yesterday. It was. I'm
All American is the one. You need to keep going. You got 2 more seasons. Keep going.
I am in. It is so interesting. I like the writing in this. I like the characters. I knew it, but I can't watch everything, And if I'm going to watch something, I'm going to go watch Ted Lasso and Christmas. Okay, I'm just letting you know. But no, All American. It's really good. I really like it. So that's my spotlight.
Keep going. Keep going. And also, they're getting a spinoff this year. This year they get a spinoff show. So keep going. Yeah, okay, it's good.
All right. You heard it here from KB. I'm Reggie Ponder, the Real Critic. This is the Real Critic Roundtable, where African American critics come to discuss, debate, and have some fun. We did all that. Got my friend KB in the house. Got my friend Katya Woods in the house. And I am the Real Critic. So I'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next time.